Welcome to On the Vineyard, a 10-minute weekly wrap-up of news from the Vineyard Gazette Media Group on Martha's Vineyard. I'm publisher Monica Brady-Meyerov. We're so glad you're here. On the Vineyard is sponsored by Martha's Vineyard Bank. Edgartown was humming with music last weekend for the third annual Porch Fest. The Porch on Edgartown Books hosted Dave Will and the Down Island Band. Martha's Party was a beautiful event last Monday. During the day, wedding and event planners were guided through some of the most stunning venues and event experiences. It started with breakfast at the Carnegie Heritage Center with some networking and coffee. Leif Iverson owns and runs Martha's Vineyard Coffee Company, and he was fueling the event planners.
I source green coffee directly from farms and roast everything on Martha's Vineyard.
That night, the planners and the community came together for Martha's Party Vendor Showcase at Grange Hall. Everyone socialized and sipped champagne cocktails and enjoyed bites from restaurants and caterers, such as Jimmy Alvarado from On Time Catering.
I'm doing a Maine mussel that's been poached and chilled, served on a bed of a spicy sweet potato. I'm also doing a passion fruit chalaquita, which is a Peruvian-style salsa. Also, ají amarillo crema and alcetra caviar and cilantro to garnish.
And that's all in this one bite?
That's one bite, yeah.
That must taste like an explosion.
It is. You can have one. You should totally have one.
Okay. Here we go.
That's the sound of our historic press in the Vineyard Gazette offices in Edgartown printing the paper. That means it's time to go upstairs to the newsroom and check in with Bill Level, the editor-in-chief, and the reporters on this week's news.
On Monday morning, a first-time fishing trip off of Menemsha between a father and his teenage-year-old son turned into a nightmare. The Menemsha Coast Guard checked in with them. They were doing a routine safety check. Soon after, they were detained by ICE and transferred to a facility on the mainland. Ethan Genter has the story here, including talking to the father's boss. Ethan?
Hello, Bill. So this all unfolded Monday morning. Rogerio da Silva Lima was out with his son Nicholas. They were fishing with a friend off of Menemsha, and like you said, it was their first time. They were soon after detained by the Coast Guard, who had inspected the boat of a friend, the friend who he was out with. He was also a coworker with this man. The coworker, I spoke to him as well as their boss. They're both their boss together. And they said, it was a very scary situation, not quite sure what was going on. At first, the Coast Guard just came over and said, we're just checking kind of safety routine check. Then they came over again, and then they came over a third time and asked for documents for these folks, later transferred to Woods Hole to go to an ICE facility in Burlington. ICE has not responded to us yet to tell us the situation here, why they were detained. We have talked to people who knew Rogerio and his son. They said they did have a return order that it's unclear where that stood. It was a scary moment for the Brazilian community here on the island, and people scared to go fishing off of Menemsha now.
And scared to give their names, just for our listeners who are wondering, why are we just saying a friend or something like that? In these cases, very, very often folks don't want to give their name because they're afraid for themselves or their family or friends. So that's why sometimes the names aren't given. Now, this is a high school student, 15-year-old at the Martha's Vineyard Regional High School, and Rogerio worked
with Roy Moraes, who owns a business here on the island. He had worked for him for a couple of years. I talked to Rory. He said, he's a real hardworking guy, was never scared to put in the hours doing the work that needed to be done.
And this is the first time we've heard of any sweeps in the water. Of course, last year in May, just about this time, we had a huge sweep on the island where they were stopping cars all over. But we haven't heard before things like this happening in the water, and especially a young person taken.
Yeah, this is a departure, like you said, in a couple instances. We hadn't heard of children being taken. It's not unclear if Nicholas, the son, there was any particular reason why these two, Nicholas and Rogerio, were taken into custody. It doesn't appear like they were being targeted for a certain reason, charges-wise. We haven't heard of a criminal background for Rogerio. But like you said, this is a big difference from last year. ICE came to the island, did large sweeps of working vans, talked to lots of people. This was kind of the opposite direction how things happened. Coast Guard spoke to these people first, then they were handed over to ICE. And that had some people in the community worried. It's one thing if we're worried about ICE on the island for immigrants. They felt there was another that Coast Guard is now kind of taking a more active role.
Yeah. Last year and also this year, one commonality is the Vineyard community stepping up to help out. So they've done that in a few different ways here.
Yeah, in this instance, soon after this happened, there's a group called Loose, as well as the Wampanoag tribe of Chappaquiddick, which Rory is a member of and a tribal council member. They had stepped in. They had reached out also to Andrea James, who's a seasonal resident and a prison reform advocate. The school has been involved in this. The big thing that was done here was to help a habeas corpus petition, which to keep the family in Massachusetts. A big concern in a lot of these immigration cases is if you are transferred out of your home state. In this instance, Rogerio told the friend here on the island that they wanted to move him to a Texas facility, and that raised a lot of concerns for folks on the island.
All right. We will continue to follow the story. Thanks, Ethan.
Thank you so much, Bill.
Turning now to Emma Kilbride, who was on the real estate beat this week, and she was focusing on a trend that is increasing here on the island, that is all cash purchases for homes. Some of them quite expensive homes, too. Emma?
Thanks, Bill. So here on the Vineyard, over the past year, 41% of all real estate transactions have taken place in cash. And the experts that I spoke to this week have told me that that is a percentage that is much higher than it is in a lot of other markets.
What's the percentages in other markets?
Around 10 to 20.
10 to 20. And then if we go to homes $5 million and above, it jumps up even more.
Yes, it jumps up to 72% for homes over $5 million.
About 3/4 of all purchases. Holy smokes.
Yes.
This sounds really frightening for the regular home buyer who, has to go get a mortgage.
Well, what it can mean, according to some of the experts that I spoke to, is that if there are more cash buyers on the market and you need to finance your home, you're going to be up against some pretty competitive offers. So it's really important to find a lender who's able to position you really well to make an offer that is strong against cash.
So it is possible. But so now the real estate folks you talk to, is this going away or does it just keep getting bigger as people get richer and richer? Do they know?
Well, what I've heard is that it is a cycle that can be self-reinforcing. So as the market gets more expensive, it attracts more cash buyers, and that makes the market more expensive again, if you can see what I mean there. But what one realtor told me is that this phenomenon has actually cooled down on the Vineyard since the COVID real estate boom here when everybody was desperate to move here off island. So I guess we'll see what happens in the future.
All right, we'll continue to check in on this and other real estate issues. Thanks so much, Emma.
Thank you.
The story about the high percentage of real estate transactions in cash was first available in our new Real Estate Insider newsletter. The free monthly newsletter focuses on the latest real estate news, trends, and statistics on everything from homes currently on the market to creative home decor and design to upcoming open houses. You can sign up for free at vineyardgazette.com. It's Memorial Day weekend, and there are so many plant sales. The Martha's Vineyard Garden Club plant sale is on Saturday. Beetlebung Farm has vegetable, herb, and flower seedlings for sale, with 15% of the proceeds going to the Chilmark Preschool. And the Morning Glory Farm greenhouse is open, with lots of both vegetable and flower starts for sale. It's time to ramp up your garden. Sunday, Chilmark Church does its annual Blessing of the Fleet ceremony on the Menemsha waterfront, which is always fun to watch. This week, I want to say goodbye to the Gazette's beloved art director. Steve Durkee laid out the newspaper for 35 years and was more than an art director. He was a mentor to many Gazette reporters, editors, and photographers. He died this month at the age of 64. At a memorial service at the East Chop Lighthouse, where he volunteered as a guide on Sundays in the summer, former Gazette reporter Remy Toomey remembered meeting Steve for the first time.
I started at the Gazette in 2010, and I remember going home my first deadline day and telling my family, I met the guy who chooses the skylines. I felt like I had cracked a secret Vineyard code after being a very long time summer kid. It was only later I learned how much care and thought he'd put into selecting the phrases every week, sometimes sneaking in his own secret messages onto the broadsheet.
Yes, Steve chose the poetic skylines in our print edition each week and enjoyed reading them out loud in the newsroom before the files were sent downstairs to the printer. We all miss him dearly. Our theme music is from island composer and musician Michael Hayden. If you like the show, please follow us so you won't miss an episode. And tell a friend who loves the Vineyard. Thanks to our sponsor, Martha's Vineyard Bank, a community bank whose employees live and work locally, providing personalized guidance and committed to understanding the needs of the community. I saw workers painting the bank's Oak Bluffs location next to the Flying Horses, getting it ready for the season. Learn more at mvbank.com. I'm Monica Brady-Myrov. Thanks for joining us on The Vineyard. Talk to you next week.